Hello and welcome to this Thursday edition of the Under Centre podcast. I'm your host, Dara Marr, and I'm joined, as always, by Rian Malloy. Rian, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good today. Yeah, looking forward to the week of football ahead.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, and we have a great week of football ahead, and it's a great start to the week because of the Thursday night football. The Denver Broncos hosting the Indianapolis Colts. And joining us to look ahead to this game, we are delighted to be joined by team reporter for the Broncos and host of the Broncos Postgame Live, Phil Milani. Phil, how are you, sir?
Thank you for having me on here. Looking forward to some Thursday night football.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, definitely for sure. And like, how were your feelings towards Thursday night football in general? Because it does get a bit of a bad rap, especially sort of online, and a lot of players don't seem to like the short weeks.
Well, I think it's just sort of the future of the game. Like there's an opportunity to play in prime time. The ratings are through the roof. So, hey, you got to do it. And over here stateside, Fridays are taken by some college games. Most kids are playing high school football on Fridays. Saturday is all college football. So the day that makes the most sense is Thursday, and not too much is going on. So it just makes sense to have a game in prime time. And I think that the players, it's an adjustment for them for the week. These guys love their routines. Hey, Mondays I do this, Tuesdays I do this. That gets a little condensed, but on the positive side, they get a weekend off afterward. It's sort of like a mini bye week for them, where a chance for them to get healthy, get their bodies right on the back end. But it is a little bit tougher on the front end.
Yeah, for sure. And like it's not probably the best sort of time to go into the Thursday, of course, with the defeat on Sunday against the Raiders, and of course the injuries now coming out of that game. Of course, Javonte Williams with the ACL injury out for the season, and then what we've heard earlier on this week that Randy Gregory going on IR as well now with a knee injury, so he's going to be missing the next 4 games too. So and that's just adding to this stacked injury list now that the Broncos seem to have.
Yeah, I mean, they really got banged up against the Raiders. Losing a guy like Javonte Williams is a big blow, because the Broncos were really counting on him this season. Things hadn't quite clicked with him through the first four games of the season, but there was a lot of expectations that this was his second year, had a sensational rookie season. So the expectations for him were through the roof, and the Broncos were using him a lot. I mean, they were going to feature him in the passing game in addition to running the ball. So that's a big loss for the team. Randy Gregory heading to IR. His injury not quite as bad, but he's going to have a scope done on his knee. Once they're in there, they're going to be able to find out exactly what's going on. But he did head to IR today. So that means he's definitely missing the next 4 games. And as a result of that, both of those injuries, the Broncos went out and got Latavius Murray, a running back from the Saints, on their practice squad. Brought him in today. He was out at practice earlier today, so he's trying to get caught up to speed as fast as he can. But he played in London last Sunday with the Saints, and then now he's here in Denver. So he was asked, "Hey, do you think you'll be able to play on Thursday?" And he said, "Sure, I could do anything, but I don't know if the Broncos are going to try and rush him in." And then for Gregory's injury, they're going to have to count on their rookie, Nick Benito. Nathaniel Hackett, the Broncos head coach, was asked about that today. He said, "Hey, is this guy ready to go?" And he said Hackett's response was, "He has to be." And that's sort of just where the Broncos are right now.
So, how much impact do you think Murray is going to have throughout the season in this backfield? I know that Gordon has split opinion a little bit in terms of his fumbling and stuff like that. Do you think he's going to kind of take reps off Gordon going forward?
It'll be interesting to see what the Broncos do here. I mean, on the short week, this was really the only move that they could make, just picking up a guy from the practice squad. I think they're going to have to rely on Melvin Gordon and Mike Boone for the most part on Thursday here. I think if Melvin Gordon plays well enough, doesn't fumble, and does a good job, I think that he could earn this starting spot and just sort of be the guy here moving forward. But I mean, one more mistake from Melvin, I don't know what that could mean for him. The Broncos just need to really be able to trust him. And you hear from Russell Wilson, you hear from Nathaniel Hackett saying, hey, look, we believe in this guy. He's a premier running back. But when it comes down to it, you can't be hurting your team the way he has so far this year. 4 fumbles this season. And then dating back to last year, I mean, there's just been too many mistakes here. And not just fumbles, but they keep getting returned for touchdowns going the other way. So you're talking about game-changing plays here. So I think that if Mel can get that cleaned up, I think that he'll become the starter. If not, then I do think the Broncos will go out and try to either make a trade or bring in another big-time running back to be able to come in here, because they're only 4 games into the season. There's 13 more to go. So it's too early to just sort of try and get to the end of the season and call it what it is. There's still time to go out and make a move here where the Broncos can still have a decent production on the ground game.
Yeah. Although Twitter did have a great time on Sunday night with the Garrett Bowles sort of leaping to stop the return for the touchdown against the Raiders.
He maybe he thought he was closer than he was. I don't know.
Well, we had the angle that we were looking at. It didn't look too close at all. But hey, look, at least he was tracking back and he didn't give up on it. That's the main thing. That's what you want. You want to see effort, especially when the ball is turned over like that, for sure. But look, Phil, the big story, of course, in the whole offseason was that trade for Russell Wilson. He did sort of at times on Sunday look like he is coming to terms with his new offense and sort of starting to gel a little bit, especially with Judy and Sutton. Too. How have you felt he's played in these first 4 games, or maybe even the last 3 games? Because obviously the first game had was such an emotional game for him, of course, going back to Seattle, that you could understand maybe if he was overwhelmed by that game especially.
I think it's been a work in progress for him. I mean, he would even admit that it's not been the smoothest, but I think that he always preaches about it's the journey here, and it's like, we got to take this thing one step at a time, and eventually the offense will look like how it's supposed to. But I think for Russ, it's been a blending of the things that he likes to do, which in my opinion is get out of the pocket, improvise a little bit, make some magic happen out there. Everybody says, let Russ cook, that type of thing. I think that's where he really excels. And then I think he's been trying to blend that into what Nathaniel Hackett wants this offense to look like. What, is he able to execute in the pocket? Is he able to make his throws on time? Is he supposed to just trust the offense that, the guys will get open when they need to, and if you just stay in the rhythm of the offense, stay on time, then you'll be able to make these passes. I think they've been trying to blend those two things, and it's taken some time here because I don't think that he's necessarily lived up to his own standards. And certainly here in Denver, the expectations were through the roof. I mean, everybody was thinking, hey, this is going to be like Peyton Manning 2.0 here. And even when Peyton was here, it took a little bit of time. It wasn't until week 6 before they really got humming. So I think that it's taken some time, but you do see some signs of it. Certainly against the 49ers, that was just a slugfest until they finally scored a touchdown late in that game in the fourth quarter. And then Russ looked like Russ on that drive. So I think that it's been a little bit of a blending there. Long term, I think that Russ wants to be able to play from the pocket a little bit more. I mean, just for your health and for just being able to have a longer career, I think you want to be able to stay in that pocket, make those throws, and not take the hits. But right now, it does seem like he's having more success when he gets out of the pocket, when he scrambles, when he's running downfield. It just puts so much more pressure on the opposing defense when the play is longer, that type of thing. I think there's been more success when he's done that.
Yeah, and he obviously, like I mentioned, he has been targeting. He has a great connection, it seems, with Cortland Sutton already this year. And Jerry Jeudy now is starting to come into a lot more too. Is there any concern maybe that the tight ends haven't been used as much in the passing game in these first 4 weeks?
Most definitely. I mean, Albert O just played one snap this last game against the Raiders. That was supposed to be a position that was going to get a lot of targets in this offense. You've really seen Eric Saubert be the biggest pass catching tight end, and that's not what he's known for throughout his career. That's not been his strong point. So it does seem like that is a position where the Broncos may be waiting for a guy like Greg Dulcich, their third-round pick out of UCLA this year. He's been on IR to start the season. He was anticipated to rejoin the team in practice starting today, but the Broncos did not do that. He did not practice along with Michael Ojemudia. So Dulcich is a guy that I think that most people around here have been waiting to see what he's going to be able to bring to this offense. And he just hasn't been able to go just yet. So I think that they'll activate his clock next week when he's got a little bit more time, probably practice one full week and then play in the game following that. So for the Broncos, probably not playing against the Chargers on Monday night, unless he just really hits the ground running and is able to go. But traditionally, when you come back from IR, you spend 1 week practicing, you don't play, and then you play the following game. So for the Broncos, that would mean against the Jets in a couple of weeks. So I don't know. It'll be interesting because Dulcich is supposed to be this guy who's got this speed. He's supposed to be able to be a weapon in the passing game, but he's just not been able to do much really in training camp at all. So we haven't really seen what that looks like. Hopefully he's been keeping up in the classroom here, in meetings and stuff, so that he'll be able to just join in with the offense seamlessly. But he's a rookie, so we really just don't know what to expect. So yeah, I would say that is a big concern that they haven't had any production from the tight end position.
So flipping over to the defensive side of the ball and looking forward to the game on Thursday, we saw Josh Jacob do a lot of damage on the ground at the weekend. How do the Broncos go about stopping Jonathan Taylor in this game on Thursday?
Jonathan Taylor's battling this ankle injury. Certainly, if he does play, it won't be 100%. You heard from Broncos defensive coordinator, Ajiro Evero, today. He said they're expecting him to play. That's how they're preparing. I mean, he's a dynamic running back, rushed for more than 1,800 yards last season. He's going to be a problem. I mean, they're going to have to make that a priority, stopping him. But up until that Raiders game, it did seem like the Broncos' rush defense was doing a good job. They went into that game against Las Vegas, the sixth best defense against the run. So they had been doing a good job in that area, but the Raiders really made it a priority to attack that Broncos defensive line. So I'm assuming you'll see the same from the Colts. And until the Broncos stop him, they're going to keep going to that. So they'll have to make it a priority. They're going to have to shore up some of their tackling problems that you didn't see. They weren't able to really get Josh Jacobs to the ground on first contact. They're going to have to rally toward the ball. And Hackett today said, look, some guys were out there trying to do a little bit too much. They were trying to make a big play, like on the third down and one late in the game. Broncos need to stop against the Raiders. Bradley Chubb is supposed to set the edge there. Instead, he gets caught going down along the line there, and the Raiders are able to bust a run out and secure the victory there. So plays like that, don't try to make a huge play. Just do your responsibility. Stay in your assignment, and the Broncos can get back to stopping the run like they did those first three games.
Yeah. And look, second-year cornerback Patrick Surtain, he had a tough game against Devontae Adams, but listen, every cornerback has a tough game against Devontae Adams. And coming into this game, we're probably looking at, Michael Pittman probably be the wide receiver one in this one. And the Colts is big issue this year has sort of been in the end zone. They seem to be able to go up and down the field fine, but when it comes to that end zone, it's where they're struggling in. And I think that it's going to be important for sort of the backfield to keep Matt Ryan contained, especially with his tendency to favor the tight ends, especially.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this Colts offense, Matt Ryan is in a very similar position to Russell Wilson, having played the beginning of his career all in one spot, having a lot of success there. And then this is his first year in a new offense with a new team, all these new weapons. It's a work in progress, just like it is here in Denver. And I don't want to speak for the Colts too much here, but it does seem like they're still trying to figure out things as they go along. I know that they had a lot of expectations this year to be able to really take that next step, having a guy like Matt Ryan come in. And the Colts were on that path to making the playoffs last year and kind of fell apart just down the stretch. So I know that they've been a little bit disappointed with the start of their season, and we'll have to see how this thing comes together, especially if Jonathan Taylor can't go, isn't able to play. That's going to put a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan. I think Ryan has 3 fumbles this year. He's been pressured a lot. So I would expect the Broncos to really try and get a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan, see if they're able to force some turnovers like they have been able to do, certainly against the 49ers. This Broncos defense had a lot of success there, taking the ball away. So I'm sure that'll be a priority for the Broncos.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead, Rian.
We've kind of looked at how the defense can maybe win the game for the Broncos. On the offensive side of the ball, where do you think the key matchups are that kind of the Broncos can target in that Colts defense? Because obviously it's quite a strong defense that they're going up against. Where do you think the Broncos can win this game on offense?
I mean, obviously, Stephon Gilmore is one of the premier cornerbacks in the league. So maybe stay away from him if you can. I would say just for Russ, try and get into a rhythm a little bit on the offensive side. Last week, certainly to start the second half, this Broncos team went 3 and out, short drives. 5 plays, I think, to start the second half. They had been backed up to their own 1-yard line. So just try to find a little bit of a rhythm, take some of those easy plays. I think that this offense, the idea is to get the ball out quickly, get those plays where it's 4 yards, 5 yards, just get into a rhythm a little bit, keep it third down and manageable. The Broncos were 3 of 11 on third down, and a big problem was it was third and forever. They faced a 3rd and 20 at one point. I mean, they were just really behind the chains a lot against the Raiders. So keep things manageable and try and stay out on the field. I would say just try and target these guys, get the ball into your playmakers' hands, because we'll have to see what Melvin Gordon is able to bring, what Mike Boone is able to do. If they're able to trust those guys, try and get a ground game going. But if it's not happening there, they're going to have to get the ball to Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Montrell Washington, their rookie returner. He's got, unbelievable speed. So try to get the ball there. Try and be a little bit creative, trying to get the ball out. I thought maybe things were a little bit predictable against the Raiders. Maybe try and mix it up a little bit here, and then try and catch the Colts off guard a little bit.
Yeah. And after, obviously, this Thursday's game, there's a pretty, meaty schedule for the Broncos, and clocking up a few air miles as well, because, heading to LA for the AFC West matchup against the Chargers, like you said, on the Monday Night Football, coming back home to the Jets, then traveling over to London, to Wembley, to take on the Jaguars. So in terms of how has preparation been for this slate of games now coming up, especially now with sort of London on the periphery as well? How many weeks in advance is there planning, I should say, for that trip especially?
I think that they had been doing some planning for this Thursday night game in advance, just because it's such a quick turnaround. But then moving forward, I think they're just going to take this thing 1 week at a time. They don't do anything too special to get ready for a trip to London. I think the Broncos are planning to get out there early in the week, acclimate a little bit, and get settled in, and then just go about things like you normally would. Get into your normal practice routine. Wednesday, Thursday, practice hard, get the game plan in completely. Friday, Saturday, do these walkthroughs and make sure that you got all the specifics down, and then just play the game. But in terms of how the Broncos season had stacked up, the beginning part of this schedule has been a little bit easier. It's supposed to be more favorable for the Broncos here, especially before the bye week when they finish up with the Jags in London. They'll have a week off, and then the schedule gets really hard. They got to face the Rams on Christmas Day, the defending Super Bowl champions. They got to play the Chiefs twice. They'll play the Raiders again. They'll play the Chargers again. The schedule gets considerably more difficult after the bye week. So looking at the schedule before the season, around here, people have thought, okay, this is going to be favorable for the Broncos as they're working out some of the kinks in this offense. They'll be facing teams that hadn't performed so well the year before. And with the Broncos sitting at 2-2 now, there's a little bit of pressure to go on a streak here before the bye week, before the schedule gets really hard, to just get some wins under your belt, because things are going to get a lot more difficult after the bye.
Definitely for sure. Just looking now at that schedule, yeah, you're mentioning obviously the 2 games against the Chiefs. You got the Ravens thrown in there, the Titans thrown in there, the Cardinals thrown in there, and that Christmas Day game against the Rams, which is going to be fun for us now to watch for sure, but maybe it's not going to be great for the players or even the Broncos fans sort of looking at that, hoping. For the one last question before we let you go, the division in general, of course, this is one of the most hyped up divisions of this year, of course, with all the additions that were made around the teams. Chiefs are leading at the moment, 1 game ahead of the Broncos and the Chargers, and now the Raiders are finally on the board. How do you feel like the rest of the season is going to pan out then in terms of the division? Could we see possibly that 3, maybe even 4 teams from this division could make the playoffs?
I think so. I mean, obviously, the division had been hyped up so much. Just talking about the Chiefs, the Chargers were supposed to take this huge step. The Raiders, an improved team. And then obviously the Broncos made the trade for Russell Wilson. The start of the year hasn't gone quite according to plan for most of the teams here. Certainly not the Raiders, just sitting at 1-3. But I think these teams are better than their record early on has suggested. I mean, I think the Chiefs have proven that they're still one of the best teams in the NFL, certainly with the plays that Patrick Mahomes makes. I mean, he's like Houdini out there, the way he can escape. I think that the Chargers have had some injury issues. If Justin Herbert can stay healthy, I think they're still going to be a really good team. And I think the Broncos are trying to figure this thing out. If the offense is able to really get clicking here, I think they could still be a really good team. So, yeah, I can still see 3 teams from the AFC West making the playoffs. There's only 3-1 teams in the AFC right now: the Bills and Dolphins, and then the Chiefs. So all the rest of the really good teams are sitting there at 2-2. So the Broncos feel like they're still within striking distance. And I think that when everything's said and done, the AFC West is still going to be the best division in football, but it hasn't quite started that way.
Exactly. Well, listen, Phil, we've been so thankful that you've been able to give so much of your time to speak to us. Before we do let you go, for anyone interested in following yourself online or even being able to follow the post-game show, where can they get it?
You can follow me on Twitter at Phil Milani, or you can follow any of the Broncos social media platforms. We do a post-game live show, so immediately after the game ends, you can log on, and it might be a little bit late over there, but maybe not for that London game. Join us. We're in studio. We're breaking down the game, and then we'll have live reports inside the locker room at the podium. So we really cover everything that way. And then we also do a podcast. It's called The Neutral Zone. You can find that on all of the Broncos social media channels too. So the Broncos YouTube page, and then also all of everything else: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Excellent stuff. Well, listen, Phil, enjoy the game Thursday. And hopefully enjoy the game in London as well. Will you be flying over for it?
Yeah, that should be a fun one. I definitely looking forward to spending a week over there.
Yeah, is that your first time heading over?
No, I've been to London before, but just as a tourist. So this one will be a little bit different.
Well, sure. If you have a day or so free and you want to pop over to Dublin, now you have 2 tour guides to bring you for the best pint of Guinness.
I'll try to. Hey, thank you very much for having me on. I'm looking forward to that. I'll hold you to it.